Hello everyone and welcome to the third webinar in our three-part mini webinar series on whether financial close departments are an opportunity for organizations to evolve. So in this third part, the last but certainly not least, we'll be taking a look at how we can deliver a successful close implementation. So in the first one, we were trying to understand why organizations need to evolve their financial close departments. In the second one, we were looking at how success looks like, or what a good consolidation process that we aim to achieve looks like. And then in this third one, we'll be trying to understand how we can make the implementation successful. And this will be more applicable to different implementations, certainly to implementations of CPM tools, not just consolidation, but we will try to paint some examples basically related to consolidation. So, like said, part 3 of 3 mini webinar series, and with this we arrive at the agenda. So introduction, we'll take a look at why change is hard, what a CPM transformation needs to cover, how to sabotage your own implementation, and then flip the script to see how to actually not sabotage it, what a real implementation timeline looks like, or what we try to follow, and the change budget support, so topics that need to be addressed, and thinking beyond the tool, finishing off with how we do it. So for those that have not managed to join the first and second webinar, my name is Miha, I work for Inulta. We are an implementer of CCH Tagetic for consolidation, financial close, regulatives, and we've worked on many CPM tool implementation projects, and hopefully we learned something from them, so we'll try to concise it in the presentation that we'll do for you today. So, how come change is so hard for humans? So, change itself is not hard. But change comes paired with uncertainty, and the human brain has evolved to hate and avoid uncertainty to the level where research has shown that you would rather receive 100% electrical shock than have a 50% chance of receiving one. So it means that our brain is actually willing to take the shock to avoid uncertainty. And here we might be thinking that it's better to act and prepare for something bad than to be paralyzed by uncertainty. And I guess this has worked well for us, or this mechanism has worked well, because in the past millions of years, we did quite well. So when we that have learned something about a tool and are starting to understand it and like it and understand what it will do for us, march to an office full of our colleagues and say, the process you're working in every day will change. Let's not be surprised where their brains sound the alarms of uncertainty and negative feelings. But it's not just uncertainty that comes with change. This we can battle, right? We can battle uncertainty with informing, with knowledge transfer, with just telling or explaining how the process will look like. But it comes paired with loss. It involves loss of a certain way that we used to work. And even if it's a bad way, it was the way that we used to work, right? And this, especially when driven by someone else, which in the case of the CPM implementation usually is, can feel constricting. It can feel that it's limiting our life and our ways. But it's not how we should look at it. With change that happens to us, there can also be change that happens within us. So it can push the boundaries of what we're capable in doing or performing in our everyday roles. Wow, right? Who thought that consolidation can be this spiritual? Well, maybe it's not. So let's switch the lens and try to see the more plastic perspective. So an implementation of a CPM tool is a hard operation. It's a heavy operation. And I think this explains it quite well, right? So we're taking one process that's happening in the company and we're trying to fit it in a tool. And what will happen is sometimes the tool will bend to fit the process, and sometimes the process will bend to fit the tool. And neither is bad, if it's managed correctly. We here at Inulta believe that actually an implementation is a huge opportunity for the organization to actually evolve processes. And we'll try to paint a picture or give an example, a fun one, on how that looks later in the webinar itself. What also needs to be considered in this heavy operation setting is that the existing technological landscape is present in the company, and we're now trying to take one process and actually just swap it out for a different software, and this has its challenges, right? Because it has to connect to inputs, to outputs. There can be IT related challenges, there can be licensing related challenges. So this is also something that we should understand when positioning a new CPM tool. So let's now jump into the fun part. So let's see how we can sabotage our own implementation. Step 1. Let's not bother executives with this. These people are busy and they have enough work on their hands. Let's just do the implementation and tell them about the results at the end. Step 2, let's not even include the employees, right? Or let's do that, but they're also busy. So let's maybe let them know about those 1 or 2 hours when they have to provide some input. Otherwise, let's not make people busy with this actual implementation as well, right? It costs a lot of money, and let's not add a lot of strain on our employees. Step 3, tight timelines. Let's plan them tight. Why? Because everything ever happens according to plan, no one goes on leave, and no other work flies in. Let's skip the JAD sessions. We know, so joint user development sessions. We know what we want. The implementer knows how to implement it, so we'll tell the implementer what we want and they'll do their job, right? Step 4, let's do everything at once. So if I'm going into this, looking at statements of work, timelines, I want to have everything done, right? I want the SAP implementation, I want the automatic report creation, I want account reconciliation and what I know. Step 5, let's start with the hardest part. So SAP implementation, we know, is hard, so let's start it straight off the bat so we have time to actually have a good chance of delivering it till the end of the project. Step 6, let's learn everything about the system before, and then we can go into the implementation. I mean, you learned how to fix the motor and change the tires on your car before you bought it, right? Now, I remember a professor of mine telling us once that challenges are best understood through their absurds. And in light of that, this was a bit exaggerated. However, I believe that a person can recognize some of their thinking pitfalls in this steps that I mentioned. So let's, like promised, now flip the script and see it from the other end. So step 1, we said let's not bother executives. We believe securing executive sponsorship early is very critical. Why? Because we said that also the process will change and we need someone with clearance that can help us achieve that. And we need support for the project to go through. So the executive should have a clear understanding of what the goal is and have a sense of urgency. So with urgency, we helped in the first webinar. With a clear goal, we hopefully helped in the second one. And now step 2, let's dedicate real resources to the project. So we need people that actually have time blocked out to work on the project, because it's very important and a critical driver of success of these projects that there are strong presence at the company and that people are really thinking about how the process should look like. Step 3, let's build realistic timelines, right, with some contingency. Let's plan that some things will take longer, that someone will go on leave. They almost always do. Step 4, let's invest in proper joint application development and alignment sessions. This is where you are starting to understand the process and what you want. Because in CPM tools, it can be very common that the understanding of what should be done starts gradually building in the project, not just in the sales cycle. And it's also building on the partnership between the implementer and the company, because that's what we are in this project, why we're partners. So step 5, phase the scope deliberately. So here we can connect it with line 6. We said that we want to do everything and that we want to do the hard stuff first. So do not boil the ocean. Take one easy step. So something, a quick win that you know that you have a lot of manual work and that we can maybe do an ETL or automate it, and do that first. Why? Because this will showcase to other colleagues that are maybe not that involved in the actual implementation the win and how it will look like after the process. So here we're battling that uncertainty that we said is a major holdback factor in many of the colleagues. And we are also giving a use case to either the senior executive that's the sponsor of the project, or to the leads of those departments that are in the project, and they have this easy case that they can explain to any other when they're pitching internally. Step 7, learn by implementing it later. Understand that true understanding deepens through hands-on use. So this is not me being salesy saying everything should be done by us, the implementer. Companies do rush in the handover and it can be suboptimal. So understand here that it's not necessary to know how to fix the motor to buy a car straight off the bat. It's good that in the long term it is, but have some gradual handover. So on the screen you're seeing a scheme that's showing the timeline or the processes on how an implementation looks like here at Inolta and what we try to follow in every project. So we see the first column is the joint application development sessions. The second one is implementation, so where the magic happens. And we have the UAT, so user acceptance testing. In the JAD that we'll take a look at more granularly in the next slide, essentially we're doing trainings, we're doing workshops with all the stakeholders, we're trying to understand what has to be done, and we are wrapping it up in the BRD. That's like the final output of the JAD session. So the BRD is the business requirements document, and it is used as a template in the implementation phase for us to actually configure the system according to it. So in the implementation, we're defining the dimensions, the ETLs, testing as we go, integrating data, and we arrive at the UAT. So here we invite you to play in the system. It's like a sandbox. We try to do testing, and here it is very important to try and make the testing as realistic as possible. Now, you will never be able to actually replicate the stress and the time constraint of production. However, let's try and test all the features as realistically as possible. So if we have review loops, if we have emailing functionalities, if we have comment functionalities, let's test them. Let's do a loop or two with our colleague to try and see and give good feedback to us, the implementer, that we can then post UAT implement. After that, it's the go live. And just like that, an implementation has been completed. Easy, right? JAD session, I've been talking a lot about it, so maybe let's zoom in on it. So essentially, this is a consolidation flow. We are kicking off with workshops, defining the group structure, the consolidation process, the adjustments, eliminations. We're handling the chart of accounts and arrive at the BRD that I mentioned earlier. For training that's going on in this part, we are using train the trainer approach, which is, I believe, quite self-explanatory, and it means exactly what it does. So we're training a person that's a more that's a person that's more intertwined and present at the actual implementation, and this person is then training onwards inside the company. Not only is this efficient, but we see it as a real success factor in many successful projects that a strong resource develops on the company side, and train the trainer approach has managed to help with that. Now we arrived at some of the topics that can be unpleasant but are present in any project. So we're talking about change requests, about support, about the actual budget. These topics, or change requests, for example, can really drive the project if they are not handled well. But the good news here is that actually with good design up front, this can be managed very well. So the budget, usually some kind of joint development. I mean, the company usually has a budget, and they need to also estimate how much it means in terms of internal work. And a good project or a good budget does not fail because it is wrong, but because someone assumes it's perfect. So some contingency is usually very helpful. What's important is that contingency is very transparent, so everyone knows when it's starting to be used and why, and time tracking on that should be very granular. The budget should also be based on assumptions that you can defend. So understandable assumptions are better than a budget that just seemed, or we have no idea on how we estimated it, but it kind of managed to be right. So it's better to have defendable assumptions. And when assumptions change, so does the budget. So that's a logical consequence. Change requests. So change requests are, like said, present all the time in CPM tool implementations. It's not uncommon for the company to realize what's possible and what they want when the project goes on. So for change requests, there are a couple of basics. One is write it down, so no ticket or it doesn't exist. Communication, so everyone needs to understand why and when from what the actual change requests comes from, and then you have to document it well. So not just for now, but in 3 years' time. And also make sure to check whether this is a quick win, a quick fix, or it will move or break something in the back and affect the project. So we actually see change requests as something that's strengthening the relationship, because it means that the company is engaged and that we are moving towards a more tailored solution. So like I mentioned earlier, here at Unult, we are strong believers that an implementation is a big opportunity for the organization to evolve. And I said I'll try to give you a fun example on it, and this is my go now. So let's say that you and your friend built a garden shed for you. And you did a good job, you were very proud of it. And after some time, you wanted a new tool rack, so to hang all your tools and your lawnmower to charge automatically. And you got a professional to do it, right? And they needed to do many workarounds to get that thing going, because I mean, you and your friend were not professionals, so you did it to your best of desires. And then after some time, you get a nice Christmas bonus, and you decide to redo the whole shed professionally. So you have kind of a mix now with something that you built and a professional built, but now you're redoing it. And this is a big opportunity, because not only you'll get a new workbench and a new outer layer, but you can actually fix all the legacy problems. You can place the power outlets where you want them, because you've now worked in the shed for a long time and you know how you want them to be, and it can also redesign the actual process which you're working in. And here we can also apply the do not boil the ocean rule. So maybe your husband's or wife's tool rack on the wall should be the first thing that the implementer does, because I mean the LED lighting can wait a bit, and this will make the stakeholders, so your wife or husband, understand and accept why they have to have a whole bunch of gardening supplies in the hallway or in the parking spot for a couple of weeks. So we also said that we'll try to paint a real case on project management, implementation management challenge. So we were doing a project at, let's say, Middle Earth packaging company, and it was a consolidation project. So at the beginning we said, let's do GAD sessions. We defined change requests well, and we said every Wednesday we have a call. Everybody has to join it, and then we can drop out if there's nothing to talk to. But we all have to join. So we did that, and in the GAD sessions, the project took quite a turn because the company wanted to go really deep into the consolidation analytics, and we managed to realize that there's actually no way to get historical data on that kind of granularity. So what we did is we pulled back a bit and went for a simpler MVP, so minimum viable product, and here then the project finished successfully, and there was a phase 2 that will go deeper into the analytics. So what we're showcasing here is good communication, because those Wednesday meetings really helped us understand both requirements and the realistic picture and have some kind of accountability between each other. We then had a good way of using the change requests mechanics, and we again learned the lesson of don't boil the ocean, so don't try to push for everything in the first phase. So with that, we come to this final slide that basically I finish every webinar with. So CCH Tagetic is our modern tool of choice for consolidation planning, ESG, other regulatives, and it can basically connect to any inputs, deposit in any output, and Wolters Kluwer, the company behind CCH Tagetic, is also investing heavily in new features and AI features. For example, AI auto mapping or Ask AI, which is essentially a ChatGPT running on your data so that executives can talk to their data. With this, we come to the end of the 3-part webinar series. So if you haven't managed to take a look at the first and second webinar, I invite you to do so on the Inulta website under blog and webinars. And even though this is the last webinar, I invite you to stay connected to Inulta, because we have always something cooking, and for sure we'll have some more webinars or materials coming out on these topics in the future. If you have any questions about what we do, have a feeling that we can help with something, or just have questions about what was said today, I invite you to contact us. The info is on the screen. So thanks everyone for your attention and for joining.